Yeah, okay, I do. Try. I'm going live now. Oh, welcome to Learn with Ashpot Python R. Welcome with Learn with Ashpot Python R. Learn with Ashpot is a weekly program that we hold every Friday by 4. It's actually a live coding session that we take people who are interested in learning Python from beginning to advanced into taking them from scratch. It's a platform where you can code along and also ask questions. And here is the outline, the course outline of the course, starting from introduction to Python to control structures, function models, data structures part 1, data structures part 2, file handling, OOP, that's object oriented programming, functional programming concepts, advanced topics such as GUI with Kinta, and also web development basic with Django, and practical exercises and projects. For today, we'll be kicking it off with introduction to Python. As we know, Python is a very popular language that is widely used today for different purposes. One of such purposes is widely used in web development, back-end. It's also used for data science, data analytics, and the rest of them. Python even also run on bare metal. That's when you talk about the MicroPython aspect of it. So Python is a very useful language, and that's why it has gained a very much ground. To begin with, I'll be creating a file, a folder where we'll do our Python stuff. Live with Ashpot, Python R is here that all our the projects we'll be doing will be. I'm actually going to open it up with Visual Studio Code, and I'll be creating a project. I'll start by creating. First, we'll be actually arranging our files. So we'll start by we'll follow up our course outline, introduction to Python, and the first one we see there is basic syntax and structure. So we'll create a folder rather, with that name, basic syntax and structure. It will help us organize our program. The next thing we'll do, let me rename. The next thing we are going to do is we are going to create a basic syntax, basic underscore syntax .py. Here is where we write our very first Python program. Okay, believing you're there with me, what happened? Okay, believing you're there with me, I'm gonna start off by writing our very first Python program, and that's just a Python program to output hello hello world to the screen. If you believe with me that this is the very first program people who are new to programming right, and the next thing we are going to do is for us to actually run this program, we go to here, terminal, click on this terminal, new terminal, and your terminal will be opened. And for you to execute a Python program, you have to type the syntax Python. Because I'm on Linux, I will actually be using Python 3. Python, then the name of your program. Okay, let's cd to, let's go to our desktop. We have to cd to okay, to basics, the name of our folder first. I will have to copy that, Ctrl C, cd to this, we'll paste it, and oh, what happened? Let me get that again. Cd to basic. Oh, it's from the naming. Let me delete that. That's bad. Let me create a new one, and we have basic syntax, basic underscore syntax dot py. Okay, so when we navigate to this basic syntax and structure again, what happened? Oh, what happened? Oh, sorry, that's bad. This comes from how we named our program. There's a space in between the syntax and the and. So we have to rename that and come back here and also do same. So we are now here. Then we have to go to the file we created. To get that file executed, we have to type the name of the file. Because I'm on Linux, I have to type Python 3, then the name of the file, the Python file you've created, basic underscore syntax dot py. If you're on Windows, you don't need to add the 3, just use Python basic syntax dot py, and that should work. So then the program we're going to rewrite, print hello world, hello world. Okay, and when we run this, when we press enter after typing the name of the Python 3, because I'm on Linux, and the basic syntax.py, when we run, we have our hello world outputted on the other text editor like PyCharm and the rest of them. In order to do that, you have to open up a terminal, or first of all, let's use this the folder we opened before. Let's open it up on you can open up your terminal first. If you're on Linux, you can press Ctrl Alternate T. If you're on Windows, just press Windows R, and type cmd and open up the command prompt. So I have to cd to desktop where I have my folder. Cd to desktop. Here on desktop, I have to know the name of the folder. So I have to cd to the folder I once created, that is live with Ashpot Python R. I'm already there. Here I have the privilege of executing this Python program directly by just running Python 3 basic syntax. Okay, I can say Python 3 basic underscore syntax dot py, and I can't find that file. So what's wrong? Let me open up. Sorry. Basic syntax. Okay. We have to first of all go to basic syntax and structure before we assess our distance, because we are still in Python live with Ashpot Python hour. So we have to kind of CD again, CD to the folder where we have our Python program written, and we are there. And because we are there, we can now run the Python program directly, and you see hello world on the screen. That is actually how to run a Python program directly on your command line tool, such as command prompt. And here in Linux, where we use the terminal. So another way you can actually do this to run Python is to open up the terminal. When you open up the terminal, you use the command. If you're on Windows, you write Python, and you press enter. But if you're on Linux, you write Python 3 and you press. Okay, so I did this. I ran the program by just writing it on the command line, print hello world, and I got hello world printed on the screen. I can do some other things like print, maybe I want to do some mathematical operation, print 10 plus 20, and I enter, I get 30 on the screen. I can do other stuff like I could even get input. I say maybe your name is equal to, maybe I say input, enter your name, and when you have your name written, okay, it tells you to enter your name. And when you have your name written, maybe something like John, and you see that you can say print name, and you have John printed on the screen. So these are various ways to execute a Python program. Actually today what we'll be doing is we are kind of starting it off, and for a start it won't be that lengthy, and we're kind of trying to see how many people can actually join and following up. So if you have any question or you would like to ask, you feel free to, because we actually want this program to be an interactive one, not just a program where we just have to talk and that's it. I actually want you to kind of learn Python with us, and that's it. So if you really like the program, or you have any question to ask, you are free to ask, and you can ask on the chat box and you get a reply from us. The next thing we'll be talking about, from actually be following our outline, is we'll be talking about the concept of, with the data types and thereabout. Let's talk about variables first before talking about data types. Why do we need variables, you may ask? Because variables are named location in memory that are used to store data which we can reference later. It's just like it provides a way of labeling data with a kind of descriptive name and making code easier to read and also to maintain. Why do we even need variables in the first place? You know that the operating system coordinates the activities of the computer. It manages computer resources, including the RAM, including the hard disks, everything you can mention or you can think about in the system. As a result, you don't have the ability to store data or to store information, whatever the program about your data directly on the RAM, maybe at a particular position on the RAM. No, you don't have that ability. The operating system assigns you that ability. So where you store it, the memory location where you store it, and you know that the memory locations that are in the RAM are just like if you've been to the bank where you store maybe even to the bank, or maybe a kind of eatery where they make you store your whatever you're with in a box, giving you a key that when you come back to pick your thing, you use that key and open it and still take your thing. That's how memory spaces on the RAM are. So the operating system will kind of assign you this space for you to store your value. You don't really know the memory address where they are stored. Actually, if you want to know, you can use statements like the ID function to get the ID of a particular place, the memory location where your program is stored. But you don't have the ability to choose. The operating system chooses for you. So since you don't have the ability, and each time you run your program, the memory location might change. That's why you need a variable. A variable is a way of naming that memory location, so that whenever you call that variable, you get access to the value you have. Let's assume I say maybe my name is equal to maybe something like 20. Sorry, let me give my name. My name actually is Darlington, and what the operating system will do is that it will take this variable name, give you a memory location, name that memory location this name, and give it the value of the value I've given it, so that if I say something like print, whenever I need that variable name, it knows that what actually I'm talking about is Darlington. And when I do that, you see I get Darlington square. Okay, what if you want to know the address, the actual address where where the variable is stored? If I want to know the actual where the variable is stored, the actual memory location, I can do something like print ID, the ID of name, and I get the memory location where the variable is stored, because you can see the memory location where this variable is stored. And if I run this program again, you see that I don't have the power to decide again where it will be stored next time I run it. And as a result, look at it. When I ran the second time, the address changed. That is to say that we can't specify where our variables will be stored on the RAM. So all we can do is to use a name. And to name it something, so that when we call that, we actually have access to the data that we've actually stored. So that is it. So that's actually what variables are. And variables actually have some characteristics. And one of those characteristics is that variables are assigned values using the equal to operator. That is the equal to operator. For you to assign a variable a value, you have to use the equal to operator. Don't make noise now. You have to use the equal to operator to assign a variable a value. Just like I've said, name is equal to Darlington. And since I've said name is equal to Darlington, that means I'm assigning the value name to Darlington, the value Darlington to this variable name. Another characteristics of variable is that variables can store different kinds of data. It can store data such as integers, floats, strings, lists, even dictionaries, and the rest of them. There are so many. When we talk about data types, you understand what we mean by data types. So there are different kind of values that something like this. Darlington is a string. Something like maybe 10, if you have a variable such as num1 is equal to 10, the 10 here is an integer. So if you have a variable such as maybe num2 is equal to, or maybe your height, for example, height, a floating point number that is a real number, something like your 5.6 or 5.6 feet tall or 5.8 feet tall. This is a float. A float is a float. Meanwhile, this one number 1 equal to 10 is an integer. So Python shortens it to int. But when we talk about variables, you understand more. The next one that we want to talk about the characteristics of variables is that in Python, variables have dynamic typing. So you don't explicitly need to declare the type of variable. The compiler knows the type of variable you are declaring. Unlike in languages like Java or C or maybe JavaScript. Okay, not JavaScript. JavaScript has dynamic typing. Languages like C, C++, and Java, where you have to do something like you start from the data type first, maybe something like int. The data type, let's assume you want to declare a variable of type int, you have to do something like this. Let me come down. You have to do something like int, that is the data type, then the name of the variable name, that is the identifier. Maybe you say int number 1 is equal to the value, maybe 5. In Python, you don't do like that. The Python has dynamic typing. That means the operating system automatically knows the data type of whatever you put. For example, if I want to know the data type of the name there, I can just say something like print, and I have print, I say type, I use the type function, and I pass the variable name, and when I run that, I see that it's a string. You see that variable name is actually a string. Look at it here. It's a class of type string. So Python automatically detects the data type based on the value you have assigned to the variable. Unlike in some languages where you have to explicitly define that. Another thing we have to talk about is the naming convention. Variables should be descriptive. Your variables should be descriptive, and there are rules to naming variables. The rules that you have to follow, rules to naming what? Variables. Naming variables. Rules to naming variables. You have one of such rules as 1. A variable can start with a letter. It must start with either a letter or an underscore. It must start with something like maybe just like I named before, num1, something like that. Variables are also case sensitive. That's to say that a variable such as age is different from, maybe you say age is equal to maybe 67, is different from age, or age like this equal to maybe 67. There are two different things, or even age, something like this, or even something like age like this, or maybe age like this. Variables are case sensitive. So whatever case you use in declaring these variables, you must also assess them using that case. Where these are two different things. This one is a different thing. The age here is a different thing. The age here is a different thing. In as much as they have the same spelling, but the case, whether lower or upper, or where the upper case is or where the lower case is, it definitely matters. So you have to declare variables. When you are declaring variables, you should know that variables are case sensitive. One is that the rules to declaring variables is that 1, variables must start with what? They must start with a letter or an underscore like this. So either it starts with a letter or an underscore. Variables cannot start with a number. You can't use something like, can't say something like this. Maybe you want to declare a variable, you say 2num. You can see the compiler is even telling you that there's an error. You can't do something like that. It must start with a letter, a character. And variables don't contain special characters such as maybe ampersand, percentage, it may be the naira sign, or even the at symbol. Variables do not contain all those special characters. The only character that variables supports in Python is the underscore. Apart from the underscore, no other one. So the underscore can start it, or can be in the middle, or even at the end of the variable name. So another rule to naming variables is that variables, okay, I think we've talked much about the rules. Just make it descriptive. Don't start with, it must start with a letter. It must start with either a letter or an underscore. It must not start with numbers or special characters. I think with that we can proceed. Another thing is that variables have scopes, and Python uses indentation to tell or to define scoping. For example, if you declare a variable such as maybe name, again let me redefine this name. Name is equal to something like John. Okay, there are places where you can use this variable. If I have a statement such as okay, let me say I have something like a function. For example, if I have a function def something like print name, and all it does is just it takes the name as an argument and just that's actually JavaScript pattern, and does something like this. Just prints whatever you put to it, name. Don't worry if you don't understand what a function is, but just the concept is actually what I want to portray. Even if I come here and call this thing and say print name, and I pass something like name, look at where I defined it. I pass something like name, I still get John on the screen. Why? Because this variable is on the global scope. This variable is on the global scope. But if I have a variable inside here that says maybe something like say something is equal to hi, and I have it here, let's assume I do something like this. I have this thing like this, and I have this, and I say something like this. Maybe say something. You see that I can only access, if I reprint this, I see John, hi, but I cannot do something like, I can't come here and say print name, and I pass maybe something like name again, or print name. Okay, sorry, I can't come here and say print, and I say something like the variable I have declared say name or say something. I can't do that because this thing is on the local scope. I can't access it here. It's only within the function where it was defined, as it can be seen. So it can only be seen within the place where it was declared. So that's how scoping works in Python. That's how scoping actually works in Python. So variables have scope, and the scope determines where they are actually seen, or where the variables are actually accessed in the code. And just like we said, local variables are defined either inside the function and are only accessible within just that function where it is defined, whereas global variables are defined outside all functions and they are accessible throughout the code. So that is what scoping actually means. Where can you access variables in the code? So that's what scoping means. As we proceed, we'll actually get to know more and also a kind of explore to learn more about, we see variables being used in action. I promised not to make today's video very lengthy. I think at this juncture, here is where we actually have to stop. It's actually a 1 hour event or a 1 hour course, but since today is the very first day we are starting this program, we actually want to get your feedback to know how what you think about this program. Sorry for the noisy environment, but I think next time when we do this, we'll actually be doing it in a more conducive and better environment. And what we need is your feedback. We need your feedback to know what do you think of a course, a program like this. Is this something that you think people will buy, or you think it's actually for free and you have the privilege of asking questions? Just send your question, whatever question you have, type it, and tell your friends about this program. Tell them that on Fridays by 4 p.m. Sorry for the delay today, because it's actually something that's just beginning. There will actually be some formalities and some other things that will try to hinder them, but I will promise that the next time it will start exactly by 4, and we hope your feedback will go a long way to a kind of either to encourage us to want to do more, because we actually want people out there to get to learn how to program in Python, because Python is actually a very powerful language. Subsequently, we'll actually be bringing courses from other, we'll actually be doing this with other courses, something like maybe JavaScript or even HTML, CSS, and the rest of them. But your feedback will actually, how committed you guys are to this program will actually determine what we do. And I appreciate my very first audience, Chukwemeka and Blessed Chinenye. I appreciate you for joining, and I wish you also advertise this, tell your friends about this, and as you do, we pray that God blesses you. Thank you.